Hello students, welcome to week 3 for COM 535 Risk Communication. This week we'll be looking at the social and psychological factors related to health communication and promotion. Weekly review, the week 3 agenda tells us that we're reading chapter 2 in the course text, and we're reading the World Health Organization PDF on risk analysis. You are watching 2 videos, one on risk communication and one on public health, and you're completing weekly review number 3 that has 2 deadlines. Your actual answer, your post, is due on Friday with your replies due on Sunday. You also have risk analysis number 1 due this week. Weekly review number 3 requires you to read the prompt, and the prompt states that tobacco is widely known to have negative health impacts, yet around 30% of adults continue to smoke. What do you think those that smoke tobacco believe encourages them to continue to smoke? If you designed a campaign to tackle these beliefs, what sort of messages would you create and why? Make sure you provide at least 3 examples. And what evidence-based practices could you use with your messaging to ensure that this would be effective? So work through that. Think about that. Think about what do you think, why people who smoke tobacco, who smoke cigarettes and things of that nature, and they know that it's not good for them, continue to smoke. What makes them do that? Design a campaign, particularly give us a brief rationale of that, because it has to be a 500-word post telling me about your campaign, and then what sort of messages would you create to help this cause, and providing 3 examples, and also provide some ideas of what evidence-based practices you could use to help with this particular messaging. You have 2 risk analysis projects to do this semester, and they're both completely the same in terms of structure and what you'll be doing and analyzing, but your actual topic will change. So the purpose really of this paper, this 1,200-word paper, is for you to take an actual risk and perform a risk analysis. The WHO, the World Health Organization PDF on risk analysis, will also help, and everything within our course text helps. This is really giving us an overview of what risk analysis is. So there are 9 questions to ask yourself in a particular risk. So what I mean by selecting a risk is you will be analyzing a specific hazard for anything within the world. So remember, this course is risk communication. That means that we are analyzing health and environmental communication patterns and promotions and campaigns. Within that, you need to pick a particular risk. So a risk is anything that could be of danger to anybody that could be exposed to an environmental or health situation, which is virtually anything. So what you'll need to do is you could pick a concept like fracking. I've taught this course before, and a lot of people use the Aliso Canyon gas leak, the BP oil spill, things like that. And that would be an environmental risk. And you need to analyze how smoking, drug use, obesity, one of those environmental factors, could be a risk to an organization that represents that, or could be a risk to society as a whole. To do that, you'll analyze it in 9 areas. You'll determine what is the rate of exposure to the risk. You'll determine what we mean by that is how exposed is the public to that risk. Is it highly exposed, not highly exposed, so on and so forth. Who are the stakeholders? What are the negative consequences occur as a result of exposure to this particular hazard or risk? What's the numerical quantification of the risk, meaning how highly at what point, or what's the percentage at which the public is at risk for this actually happening? So fracking, what percentage of the public would be affected by that? It may just be those that are within close proximity to the fracking. Maybe if they're not in close proximity, they would be at a less risk, so on and so forth. Are there differing perceptions between experts and lay people about the hazard? What's the expert mental mode of the risk? So on and so forth. So essentially, I want you to go through, pick an organization that's related to your particular risk that you're talking about: obesity, smoking, drug use, fracking, virtually anything, and talk about how exposed they are to the public by communicating about this or not communicating about this. You need to have at least 5 outside sources. It needs to be 1,200 words, and it needs to be in full APA, cover page, abstract, and all of that. If you have any questions, let me know. As we look at social and psychological factors within risk communication, it's important to know that communication is linked to the social environment in which it takes place. You'll see here in figure 2.1 from the course text that there are many social and psychological factors that influence communication in the health and environmental areas. Particularly, social factors have a direct influence on the individual's attitudes, beliefs, or values to performing psychological behaviors. And you'll see where that fits. The assumption is that based on differences in social factors, there is more pre-planning that takes these factors into consideration that you see in figure 2.1, and the more realistic outcomes of the intervention will be by looking at this particular pattern. The more likely the target group will be responsive to an intervention is the more likely that the intervention will be effective. So really, if you think about it, for example, social factors can influence how individuals perform protective behaviors, such as regular physical activity, things of that nature. Different groups will perform behaviors in different ways. Young age groups might take part in physical activity at school. Older groups might use the gym, so on and so forth. So social factors also impact the individual's attitudes, beliefs, and values in performing behaviors, and therefore by the need of a high priority in any proposed health communication project. So do keep that in mind. The social and psychological factors as to how we make decisions for environmental and health related issues in our life is largely placed on how it is perceived internally and externally by the person. The CAB model, knowledge, attitudes, behavior model, shows the relationship between attitudes and behavior within environmental and health communication topics. Knowledge is really a key factor for the development of a particular attitude, and attitudes are influenced by social and psychological factors. So ultimately, knowledge shapes our attitude. Attitudes are influenced by society and the psychological factors related to us about the particular topic, and the attitude is turned into a behavior. So there's a good sample here in figure 2.3. For example, vitamin D can be attained by sunlight. Vitamin D helps the body absorb calcium. Your attitude of it is important to prevent osteoporosis. It'll help keep my bones strong. So my behavior is I need to increase my exposure to sunlight, provide a diet that is richer in vitamin D, so that way my body can better absorb calcium so I have stronger bones. So the knowledge, attitude, behavior model can play an effect in a number of different activities we do within this course. It's something we regularly use and assume when we develop health and environmental communication programs or campaigns. We know that if they have knowledge, they can develop an attitude. Their attitude is influenced by the social and psychological pressures and factors within one's life, and that can lead to desired behavior change or undesired behavior change, depending on what that may be. So as you go through this week's assignments, make sure you read Chapter 2. You go through the World Health Organization Risk Analysis PDF. That's really helpful for the risk analysis assignment. You watch the videos. You complete your risk analysis no later than Sunday, and your weekly review is due on Friday with your reply post due on Sunday. If you have any questions, let me know. I look forward to interacting with you all this week, and I pray you all have a blessed week. God bless.